My guest today has spent 15 years at the intersection of enterprise technology and AI, leading transformations for some of the world's largest companies. He's a Forbes Technology Council member and the author of some of the most practical writing about Agentic AI and where it's heading. Welcome to the show, Dr. Pawan Anand.
Thank you, Chelsea, for your kind words, and happy to be here.
We've asked at the end of the show for folks to give us a hopeful nugget or something they're excited about from AI. I want to dive right in with you. Can you kick us off with some excitement about this 2025 piece you wrote about digital colleagues?
Sure. The world has changed a lot since the time AI has become mainstream. The application of AI is in multiple shapes and forms, with ChatGPT among the first ones to be becoming mainstream in 2022. And very interestingly enough, organizations globally have adopted something called as digital colleagues, which is a term that will gain momentum and become even more popular as days and months to come. So, in organizations where you have humans working for a different project or a system or a business unit, in addition to us humans, now there are AI agents, which are our digital colleagues. They get an input, they work towards an objective, and work with us humans to fulfill their duties and the output that they're expected to produce. So it has made the entire ecosystem very interesting because you cannot touch them, see them, but they actually deliver the results again with some degree of accuracy, and then there's the training aspect of it for any human as well as for AI. So we are going to see that more in an increasingly pattern in coming months and quarters.
This wasn't an original question I wanted to ask, but the way you were talking about it makes digital colleagues sound human almost. It's like giving a personality or giving agency to a bot. Do you feel like this consciousness is coming and we're going to start treating agents and as colleagues, like with feelings?
I'm not so certain about the
Okay.
feelings, but if you think of it as a colleague who performs his or her, roles and responsibilities, the on the job duties, and then there is a review that, okay, how did you do? Are there areas of improvement, and do a better job next time,
Uh-huh.
right? That's typically how any of us operate. So take the same framework, apply that to an AI agent. Make sure that there are guardrails of what are the do's and don'ts, because it's at the end of the day, it's technology and it has got some thinking and compute attached to it. And we just want to ensure that it doesn't go off the rails and performs the outputs and outcomes that the system and the agents are designed to.
I've seen some posts and writing about people saying the way that I treat my agents is not the way that I treat my human colleagues. I just say, do it. I don't worry about spelling. I just yell, fix this. Is there a problem with that you see coming?
I mean, that's the whole advantage of using AI agents, because you can use them 24/7. Apparently, they don't need time to sleep or rest or spend time with their families, at least
Yeah.
for the time being. So you can achieve much more from the 24 hours that we all have in our days, right? So humans can focus on much more domain-centric, tribal knowledge of the systems of the industries that they bring, because that's something that will take much longer for AI agents to learn, because the whole creativity in problem solving is where we humans excel, and we can then focus more of our bandwidths doing more creative work, making sure that we understand the industry, the domain, whether it's retail or telecom or healthcare or banking. What are the next products out there, ideation in terms of what's next, what's the next product, what's the next feature that we should engineer for our customers, whether it's on the enterprise, SMB, or large enterprise segment, right? So for the agents, they can focus more on the repetitive task in order to automate the workflow so that we can hit the ground running, get to the market much faster than we would have before.
And you've written about this missing layer that a lot of enterprise companies have in their AI strategy called the agent web. Can you explain this?
Sure. It's a very interesting concept, because when AI was being piloted. A lot of organizations use different nomenclature, whether it's proof of concept, proof of technology, experimentation, pilots, doing MVPs. So they're trying out a few use cases. It could be using any of the platforms or infrastructure that runs them. But at the end of the day, they're trying to see, can we do things faster, better, cheaper, right? But those are mainly on your productivity side, trying to be more efficient as an organization, whether it's on engineering or product side. Now, there are areas of business productivity that we are seeing in terms of, can we make more money? Can we increase revenue? Can we shorten the cycle for our next product launch or next feature launch so that we can realize the dollars much sooner than eventually we would have? As a matter of fact, it's been engineered by agents. Now, this example that I gave you is for agents working within your organization, right? So you have the concept of, engineering, delivery, product, there is business, there's legal, finance, bunch of functions, HR. So there are workflows that get automated. Now, imagine a scenario, a situation where an agent from organization X interacts with an agent Y from, organization B. Now, here is where the layer becomes very, very interesting, because now it's an agent talking to an agent. Let's hypothetically imagine a scenario where a procurement agent could be talking to a sales agent, talking about a contract which has come up for a renewal for X number of licenses, and it's happening all of it at autonomously. So those are the things, because we humans have an understanding of the language, the emotion, what are the objectives on the conversation, what are the outcomes that we are all working towards. So all those things have to be fed in terms of the guardrails, the expectation, the training. What's the outcome that the agents have to determine the outcome and work towards. So that's the whole premise or the terminology of agent web, because multiple agents, and I try to simplify it down, dummy it down as much as possible with an example. But you think, multiply this with millions of agents across the globe, trying to achieve a certain bunch of these tasks in an automated fashion.
If an organization is adding an agentic element to, say, the sales team is adding agents, and then you've got the finance team adding agents in the scenario you just gave, how many organizations are building in a way that they'll easily build this layer where they can connect versus just slapping agents up in silos right now?
Yep. So great question there. So if you think of it, right, I think the most recent report that I, read from the likes of like McKinsey or Deloitte, World Economic Forum. So there are a bunch of them that say that in last, say, 12 to 18 months, there are over, I think 90% of organizations, C-suite, CIOs and CTOs and CEOs who have tried AI in some shape or form. So that leaves us with a very small minority, subset of organizations who might not have tried or might not have participated in survey, because this year, everybody's trying AI in some shape or form. Now, coming back to the question on how is it going to work, those are where the guardrails come into the picture, the equation, wherein you have to ensure that there is governance. Ethical AI is very important in terms of how the data is sourced, how it is being accessed, who can do what with the data, because there could be some, privileged information, customer related information. So we have to be very careful handling such kind of data, making sure it's secure while the communication and outcomes are being designed.
On a previous episode, we talked with Logan, works in governance, and he mentioned leaders shouldn't just outsource everything. They should at least know and help be a part of this
Mhm.
building of the governance and what the agents do. If your team has no experience with AI, can you bring in outside help to guide you as you build this agent web across departments so you do it right?
Absolutely, and that's the reason we see that a lot of enterprise customers, SMBs, are working with engineering organizations and partners and hyperscalers in order for them to make sure that they start on the right foot, because moving in the right direction is very important. And there are learnings from the POCs that have been done in the past. There was a very interesting report that came out last year that 91% of pilots do not yield the results that are expected. And a possible reason for that is you have to identify end-to-end workflow in designing AI. You can't have AI working in silos, and because you have to trust the system, you have to design the guardrails. And there's a pretty old saying, right? Your system, the weakest link in your system is the strongest point of your system, right? Because your system can only be as strong as your weakest link in the system, right? So when you designed, your AI system and you're automating the workflow with AI, you are ensuring that there's trust in the outcome with human in the loop. And once your system, AI system trains, it gets better, right? You have to have the right nuts and bolts in places so that the unique pieces of the puzzle is fixed the way so that the outcome is expected. And then you train, you give it feedback, it becomes better the next time it does it. And then once you're having an end-to-end workflow design, then you can expect the outcomes. One other thing which is very, very important is human in loop, because you cannot just let systems run on its own because it's not cheap to run AI. So in order to make sure that you're wiring it correctly, you have architected it correctly, and the right inputs, expectations, and guardrails are in place with everything governed properly, so that you're able to meet the expectations from
When
the system.
sales and marketing and customer success teams started slapping all of our systems together and figuring out how do we speed up sales, we came up with RevOps as a whole nother department, a whole nother team that needed to help now run these systems and make them like figure out how to do everything better. You've written about agent ops. Can you tell us how that plays into adopting AI at your company?
Sure. And this is just continuing
Yeah.
the trend, right? Because in last few years we have seen there's ML ops, there is AI ops. Now with Agentic AI, there has to be agent ops in order to make sure that you're operationalizing your, say,
Mhm.
your strategy, because rubber has to hit the road, right? So how do you actually make sure whatever you have architected is actually done on the ground, right? So you need agent ops in order for the functions with the framework for everything to function properly, and happens after Z, X happens after Y. So everything has to be orchestrated in a manner so that there's a pipeline and everything flows in the right direction.
So would an agent ops team be responsible for building, maintaining, and checking those guardrails?
There are shared responsibilities when it comes to whole agent ops. It could be getting the infrastructure ready for the AI engineers to engineer the system, hook it up, making sure what is needed, what are some of the use cases, because a use case from a product a team could be different from an engineering team could be different. And when you double click on engineering, there could be folks who, agents that are doing your coding versus some of the agents that could be doing the documentation versus an agent that does automated testing of the code that was written, right? So the expectation from each agent would be different. The kind of inputs and output expected from the agent would be different. And all of it is operationalized, in a pipeline for the sake of simplicity by the whole agent ops framework, to say so.
So if we're going to look a few years out and say an enterprise has truly figured out agentic AI, what does that look like?
So that's the most recent article that I've written. It's coming live. I think getting live tomorrow on Forbes. I call them AI native organizations, right? So there is one way of looking at that you're adopting AI, and one way of looking at organizations who are AI native, right? Because there was a term few years back. I think it was like maybe a decade back when organizations were called cloud native. Then there was a term coined as digital native, right? So when organizations become AI native, it simply means that it's embedded in every workflow, every business unit, whether it's business or engineering or any other function within your organization, that is untouched or not untouched by AI, so that it's embedded and you're automated and your workflows are automated by AI, and it's ingrained, embedded, and who you are as an organization. Everybody, every human is interacting with a digital colleague and is working towards the outcome that human and agents are working towards.
I think we've been interviewed Amos Bar Joseph. His company Swan AI is 3 people, and the rest is all agents. So they are AI native. That's what they say. Okay, now I get it better. Are there any risks that leaders need to be aware of as they're going further down the agentic path?
One thing that, based on many of my conversations with senior leaders, technology leaders, and C-suite, is don't treat AI as a shiny new toy, right? And don't have a FOMO, right? Do it the right way. It's okay if you do it a quarter or two later, but do it the right way because uh, as I previously touched upon that doing AI, implementing AI is not cheap if you're a large organization, right? Your CFO will be okay to foot the bill for a few quarters, but then the question is what's the ROI, right? Are we making more money? Are we spending less money, right? If it's both yes and yes, then great, why not, right? So figure out a strategy and in terms of what is the best way to implement for your particular organization, because every organization is unique, every ecosystem is unique, every business is unique, right? And once there is a strategy behind it, pivot if something doesn't work. And if it's working, continue to do so and double down and do it faster so that you're able to realize the ROI faster. So once the whole ROI is figured out, I'm pretty sure we all are going to see much more widespread adoption of AI in large enterprise organizations, small organizations, and everybody alike.
There are still a lot of companies that are stuck in this proof of concept mode, or they're dabbling. They're not AI native. What's the difference between companies that are making the jump and those that are just continually stuck experimenting or dabbling?
So a lot of it has to do with the organization culture, right? And that's one of the factors that I found during my doctoral research as well, that how soon or late do you adopt AI it depends a lot on your organization culture. By organization culture, what I mean is, what's your risk-taking appetite? How soon do you adopt new technology? And when I say adopt new technologies, you try it out first, right? You do either a POC, pilot, POC, POT, experimentation, whatever nomenclature you call it, and then you try to see is there scope for using something which is latest and greatest. It could be any technology for that matter. Not it might not be as transformative as AI, but that defines who you are as an organization. Doesn't matter whether you're a small organization or a large enterprise, right? What's your propensity for taking a risk when it comes to adopting new technology? That defines how good is your ecosystem around you? How good are people to change, right? Because it's not easy for humans to unlearn and learn, right? So if the culture is there, then it becomes much easy for organizations to pivot and adopt something new.
Taking a risk can be easier when you know there's going to be an ROI. Like you talked about earlier, there's they're going to want to see an ROI at some point. And some of the ROI from your work, you've helped clients improve time to market by up to 40% through AI augmented delivery models. Just want to give somebody hope of an ROI. What does that mean and how did that change the team's day to day?
That's been a an observation that wherein you are doing task X versus Y, and there are two ways to look at it. And the example that you probably quoted is that you have an existing team, and say you are doing X amount of work, and you are now doing same amount of work in say 40% less time. That's one way to look at it, and that is when teams can look at you know reusing some of that bandwidth, engineering bandwidth in different projects for ideation, for doing innovation, whatnot, right? And the other way to look at it is, you can continue to have the same engineering bandwidth, but you can deliver more. So there are two lenses in which you can define productivity. Am I doing more, or am I doing same amount output of work with lesser bandwidth of team members?
I love that you didn't give this third option, which is let's cut headcount. How do you feel about using the same headcount to get more done versus just let's slash headcount?
Yep. So a lot of organizations, hire, and every organization have their own strategies and reasoning on how they hire. So a lot of organizations, have their strategy of hiring around, future outlook, right? And things change. So if there are things that change, how do you use the talent that you have at hand in terms of doing innovation projects, or if, like, experimenting new tools, products, ideas, right? And a lot of the roles have evolved, right? So if you look at last 5 years, an AI engineer or a prompt engineer, AI ops engineer, ML ops engineer, they did not exist. So now there's a big demand for them, right? So there is a big shift, because if you go 2 decades back, there was no role called as cloud engineer or a DevOps engineer, right? So those evolved, and now things are evolving again. So let's see how things change over the next couple of years, and there will be a shift in terms of once the organizations are trying to become AI native. I'm pretty sure there will be more demand for skill sets with AI in them.
You've talked about ethical AI here in your writing. You said it's not something that just sits on a slide. What does it look like when a company embeds ethical AI properly into their systems?
Great question. Think of situations where the models, right? I don't want to get technical, but if you think of the large language models, which power a lot of these applications that we consume as consumers, uh, what was, where was the data sourced from, right? Who owns the data, right? So those are the questions that we need to answer. And again, right, AI is being used in, say, education, right? EdTech, right? You can query and ask, about a particular topic, but the guardrails there are very important, because the AI should not give its opinion. It should just present you with facts, because you're learning a subject similar to if you would learn it from a book or a PDF that you were going through to learn something new about a topic or about an event that would have happened, or a new technology that you're learning. So just present facts, and don't give your opinion about it, right? Just one example of how to get things right, do it the right way,
How do
the
you
ethical
know
way.
what the facts are? If you don't know where the data is coming from, if you're using like a Claude or you're using a Chat GPT, how can a company, as the LLM, how can the company know what is a fact versus what is made up or an opinion?
So I'll try to give a
Okay.
non-controversial response to this. Is every time when you query, you would see a small note at the bottom that says AI can make mistakes, or this is an AI generated response. Please check your facts, because AI can make mistakes. So just try to tie that statement with everything else, because there's only a certain degree of accuracy that a system, because at the end of the day, it's technology, can produce using whatever, for that matter.
Okay. So let's talk to the leaders out there. If there's a CEO or CTO who wants to start moving towards an agentic operating model, where would they start this year?
So, in order for any organization to get to an agentic operating model, you have to identify what are some of the workflows, the use cases, or business units that you want to automate, right? Come up with a strategy, see what the infrastructure that you're going to use, how you're going to use it, and then define the outcomes. What are the expectations that you have from the system, and what's the ROI, right? If you are doing things with a clear outcome in mind, then comes how do you make sure that it's governed well, and everything put together is defined as a framework, which I've called as agentic operating model.
Do you recommend that as someone as high as a CEO or CTO is involved in the weeds with their team while they're adopting this?
Involved, yes. In the weeds, no, because there is middle management, and then there are your engineering teams and product teams who have their own set of responsibilities to meet. But one thing that I always is a firm believer is that strategy many times is a collective responsibility of everybody to provide inputs bottoms up, and then the job of the senior leadership or the executive team is identify what are some of the signals that you hear from the market, what are the inputs that you're getting from your teams, and then come up with a strategy that, okay, I think here is what will work. But again, the point is, be agile, be nimble, and if something doesn't work, maybe a couple of quarters down the line, few months down the line, pivot, change, right? And then identify the strategy that goes top down, and then work with your middle management and leaders to make sure that everything is implemented bottoms up as well, so that you
Uh,
meet in the middle.
Are there any mistakes that you're seeing, smart, super well researched and resourced technology leaders still making with AI?
Um, I think that there is a reason. I'll go back to the report that I talked about, that 91% of POCs were not successful, right? So there were learnings from that. Uh, what that has resulted now is taking things in a different manner, and you would see success, right? Because a lot of conversation that I've had with my customers in last, say, 2 3 4 years, things have evolved a lot. The technology has matured, or I would say starting to mature in certain areas and still evolving in other areas, right? And as technology continues to evolve, the adoption strategy and on the ground execution is also changing, right? It's not about having X or Y tools, because tools evolve. What do you do with them is also important, because that is when you are actually, as a team, going to get a collective output of using AI in your workflows, in automation. And when I say automation, I'm not talking about just technology automation. I'm talking about business process automation, documentation automation, knowledge repositories, creating documents that never
Mm.
existed, right? That has become pretty easy these days.
Sometimes they write the agents. Sometimes the writing on those documents is too long. I say, no human wants to read this. So then you'd have an agent read the document. Give me a summary of this SOP. Oh, man.
Absolutely. That's one way to look at it.
We asked you what you were excited about at the beginning. Is there anything else that has you either scratching your head or like super pumped up about the future of agentic AI?
Whatever we have witnessed, I would say, in last 4 to 5 years is making me even more interested on how this is going to evolve. And are there areas, or because everybody talks about AGI, which is your artificial general intelligence, that's the terminology that everybody is working towards. Are we going to see that in next 5 years, next 10 years? That is when it's going to get more interesting. And I'm pretty sure we all read about and we see these small demo videos of the hardware like robots that get powered by AI to do a lot of these day-to-day work that we humans do, right? So when there is a intersection of hardware and software, I'm very interested to see where that culminates, right? And how does that partnership evolve into?
The videos sometimes look fake when you see, like, I know Boston Robotics used to be, is it Boston Robotics or Diamond? Used to be like
Yep,
the top, but now you
yep,
see
yep,
all over the world, people have different versions that are just, they look fake. You can't tell. Is this an AI video of an AI robot?
yep,
It's very cool.
yep.
You have tons of writing. We're going to link below where people can find you on LinkedIn and on your Forbes articles. Do you have anywhere else you hang out online we should link to?
Those are the
Yeah.
couple of places that,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
what's one book you've been reading lately, work or podcast you've been listening to that you've been loving?
I'm looking forward to, last, I would say, few weeks I was traveling for work, so I couldn't get to like book or a podcast. But a series that I'm looking forward to is the I think the third season of The Night Agent on Netflix. That's the
Oh,
one I'm looking
that's coming
forward to.
back?
I think that dropped, I think, last week. Yeah, I think that got launched last week. And looking forward to summer, so that I can get back to the field and play
Oh,
some cricket.
okay. I've watched, I've never played. Are you any good?
At this age, if I do play, it's the love for the sport, and it's more about others telling me I'm good, not me
So
telling me I'm good.
you're not diving and rolling and jumping and trying to pull your knee or anything. You're just trying to have some fun.
Except pulling the
Oh,
knee, I do all of it, right? Diving is part of cricket. You can't be without it.
fun. And then is there one thing that you're learning or unlearning this year?
Learning a lot about how organizations and people are reacting to the adoption of AI, and unlearning is very important for you to learn the new way of AI. So this year it's going to go hand in hand for you to unlearn, let go of something so that AI can do it for you.
I appreciate you coming on and making this so approachable. We're going to link below where everyone can find you. And thanks so much for sharing everything with us today.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a
Talk to you
pleasure
soon.
being here, Chelsea. Thank you.